Welcome into the Husker 24/7 3-minute drill. It's 3 minutes because 2 minutes is never quite enough. Brian Christopherson there, Michael Bruntz here, talking about spring practice number 6. It was a defensive day, a few defensive assistants and defensive players. Brian Christopherson, what was one thing that you took away from today's media session?
Well, Omar Brown was up in front of us, and I think he's a guy we got to pay attention to. Last offseason, us at Husker 24/7, we were pretty fired up about him because of his resume at Northern Iowa. He didn't actually end up getting a lot of defensive snaps, but he's hit reset since December. I think he's really sort of gelled with this staff and kind of what they're asking to do. His versatility in I don't want to call it a positionless defense, but what Tony White has going on where it's sort of a chaos defense. Omar Brown has the versatility where on the back end, he can do a lot of different things, maybe the rover, but he could probably play several positions. And he's just got an exuberance about him right now that he's trending up. And of course, he's produced at Northern Iowa. And now it's just a matter of being determined and trying to do it at a higher level. Give me something else. What's the second point that we should bring up here?
So speaking of higher levels, we talked to MJ Sherman for the first time. The Georgia transfer comes in with a couple championship rings. He's played alongside some dang good defenders, and he's at that jack position. It's kind of that stand-up pass rusher, could play with their hand in the ground, kind of moved around the defense. But we learned today that MJ Sherman, Jamari Butler, Javin Wright, and a couple other guys working at that spot this spring. And MJ Sherman talked. He's very happy to be at Nebraska. I trust Matt Rule's staff, and said he was really intrigued by the opportunity here in Lincoln to kind of get in on the ground floor with what Nebraska's got going on. He's definitely one to watch, I think, in the spring and certainly going into the fall as a potential difference maker on defense. And we'll throw it back to you for your last point on what you learned today.
Yeah, Terrence Knighton talked, and the defensive line coach, known as Pot Roast by some, did a pretty thorough breakdown of guys. Hutmacher is having a good spring, I think, with the staff so far. He's sort of stepping into more of a leadership role. I think he's determined to show, and they want him to show that he's more than just that strength guy, who can go straight ahead on an offensive lineman, but he can move around and show his athleticism, and he's lost some weight. So he's a guy to watch. Another name that was interesting to me was Elijah Judy, the transfer from Texas A&M. Terrence Knighton said he's a guy who can play the 3 technique, the 5 technique, really can bounce around all throughout that D line. Early process for him. He didn't play a lot of snaps at A&M, as highly recruited as he was, so he has a lot to prove. But it seems like he's hit the ground at least at a steady pace in Terrence Knighton's eye. So that's a good sign there. So that's some of what we learned today at practice. We'd encourage you to come back to Husker 24/7 for all the latest.